Hello, everybody. This is Sheldon Reich. I'm the Chief Solution Architect with CYBRA Corporation. And welcome to Pump Up Your Profits from Petite to Extra, Extra Large. Joining me is Mr. Mike Chabet. Mike's the VP of Sales and Marketing at CYBRA. And we're going to show you some concrete ways to reduce your supply chain costs with RFID. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. That is that you're muted, but that doesn't mean you can't participate. We really encourage questions. And joining us on the call is also Phil Andrianos. He's the digital marketing specialist here at CYBRA, and he'll be monitoring on the GoToWebinar little taskbar, the control panel. You have a place to ask questions, and please send them in, and we will answer them as we go along in the presentation. I really thank you for taking your time. Time is really the most precious commodity, and we do appreciate that you've chosen to spend some time with us. What's the agenda? Well, right off the bat, we know that you're here because you're tagging. And why are you tagging? You're tagging because typically you've got a compliance mandate from one of your retail partners. And so we'll talk about what that really means. And real quick overview, super fast overview, it's actually a humorous overview of the benefits of RFID. And then we'll get a little more detail on the ROI. And then we'll move to the meat of the presentation, which is how our EdgeMagic platform and its solutions for various component parts listed here, how we can impact your bottom line. And the real takeaway here is how RFID can benefit the brand owner, not just the retailer. It's really the bigger bang for everybody and we'll show you how to take advantage of it. So it's not just a cost, but it's an investment that'll repay you. So tag you're it. Okay, you've got this mandate. You get the letter from whoever, there's retail customer, and says you got to tag. Well, let's put ourselves for a minute in the retailer's shoes. I'm telling you, they are schizophrenic. Why? Because they've actually got two personalities that they need to present to the world. On one hand, they have to compete with the Amazons of the world on the e-commerce front, because obviously, there's tremendous numbers that are pumping out of e-commerce these days. Plus, they're competing with, Walmart. It depends on the category that they're in, and they're also competing with other retailers who are omni-channel experts, who are have merged their e-commerce storefront with their physical stores, with their brick-and-mortar stores as distribution points. So that's one side of the challenge. On the e-commerce side, obviously, they're competing on price, inventory availability, and delivery. I mean, that's what e-commerce does. And as you know, if somebody knows what they want already, they'll just go online, search for the best price. Can I get it tomorrow? Thank you very much. Goodbye. No, is it in stock? Can I get it tomorrow? Goodbye. But all your retail customers are also competing with other retailers in the brick-and-mortar space. And it's funny, it's the antithesis, actually, of that e-commerce approach, which is known as slow shopping. It's apparently a new phenomenon. What does it mean? It means, you have a cappuccino bar in the store. You have a piano playing. You've got an experience. You've got selfie walls or whatever it is, where the goal is stickiness and to keep the customer in the store longer, to improve the shopper experience. So that's what these, so your retail partners, they have it on both ends. On one hand, they want a customer to spend more time in the store to grow a relationship with the customer, and on the other hand, they also have to be able to quickly deliver and respond to an e-commerce sale that just flies through the DC. And in some cases, you'll be drop shipping for them, where it's click, order, boom, in the cart, pay, gone, and that's the extent of the relationship. So that's why we see retailers having this schizophrenic side to them. So what are the benefits of RFID? So Mike's a fisherman. I'll let him take over here. Mike, what do we see here?
I changed the screen.
That's coming up to you? Oh, we're definitely on. Let me see what, excuse me. A little bit slow on the capture. It was, I did go forward.
Ah, there we go.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, as we can see here, we're using a tool in a barcode environment, and that tool, we need to seek and find the object that needs to be scanned, and we also have to present the tool at the right end. We got to find the barcode with the red line and put the red line in the barcode. Sort of like putting the bait in front of the fish and not behind it. So barcoding is a one-on-one relationship between the tool and the object being scanned. Now, this may not be a bad thing. There may be certain applications within the process where we want to mix barcode and RFID for those isolated scans, exception handling, and things of that nature. Now, on the RFID side, go ahead, Shel.
Yeah.
On the RFID side, we can see that we're collecting lots of information very quickly with the tool. So this is where we're catching a lot of scans, reads, what's inside of a box without opening it, what's on a pallet without depalletizing it, and this is where we get into the mass read of RFID versus the single read of barcoding.
That's our lesson on the benefits of RFID. Very straightforward there. But let's talk about some of these benefits for retailers. Wait, your screen will refresh. As I've refreshed, there we go. Okay, so the full list is the benefits that this is why the retailer is doing it. You know, their increased revenue, the profit margins, etc. All the things that are listed here. Their accurate product location and availability data. Obviously, they've got mixed SKUs. Their goal is to enhance the customer satisfaction. They don't want a customer to ever walk out of the store and say that he couldn't find something that wasn't available. But what we've done here is the bullet items that are in orange. Well, these are the benefits that the brand owner can take advantage of. In other words, if you can lower your cost in your DC, well, guess what? You'll improve your profit margin. Okay? You're optimizing your fulfillment. You're reducing the labor cost. Anything that I can do to help you reduce your labor cost in your warehouse, well, that's going to, you put those folks to work on more revenue-enhancing opportunities. And which leads to the ROI, the same measure. Now, these numbers, they come from GS1, they come from Auburn University. As Mike often mentions, we're no longer in the experimental phase. This is a proven technology, and these are the numbers that people are seeing. So if the retailers look to reduce the out of stock in credible numbers, improve their accuracy, well, guess what? So can you, the brand owner. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to reduce your receiving time, and we'll show you how. Reduce the cycle count time, validate your orders, a whole bunch of different ways that you can really take advantage of the technology. So how does EdgeMagic work for a brand owner? Well, this is the full flow chart, how it would work for a retailer, but the brand owner's got many of the same steps as a retailer. So the first place is tagging those goods. Where does that start? All right. So in the EdgeMagic product, you can define your serialization, and EdgeMagic will manage the serialization of all your SKUs. We support it. We can allow you to set start and stop ranges as well as define blocks. So, for example, you might need a block of serial numbers for use of tagging in your DC, your existing garment. You may decide, you know what, I've got a factory in Bangladesh. Let me assign a block there. Let me assign a block to Latin America, assign a block to Germany, whatever. Okay, EdgeMagic will keep track of that. It's a field-proven solution, and you know, one of our customers had 235,000 stock-keeping units that we were keeping the unique serialization for each and every one of them. And we support the TID, Tag ID, which is the chip-based serialization, and that allows you to work with service bureaus or with you know, overseas where you choose not to have. So either way, you have both options. You can have the software-based serialization management as well as the chip-based serialization management. Let's talk about some of the ways that we can help you do the tagging. Michael, take over and tell us what we see here.
All right, we have a number of ways to provide tagging within the distribution center environment. And just to touch base a little bit on the serialization piece, the EdgeMagic product has been designed to work harmoniously with all of the service bureaus that are available. So we know what the 3 or 4 top service bureaus are. By managing the serialization within those environments, learning how they're conducting their serialization within a particular brand owner. We have a number of brand owners that may have relationships with 3 service bureau operations, as well as having printers in remote factory locations, as well as being able to use devices as we see in front of us. So what this allows us to do in the DC, we have returns, we have exception handling, we have items that we QC'd that we found that may have been mistagged, or we found some dupes that may have come in for whatever reason. This device allows us to replace that RFID tag and actually scan the UPC code on the garment and re-energize a new RFID tag with an EPC for that garment very efficiently and very quickly. And again, working in a global environment and supporting multiple sources and resources for tags and labels. Go ahead, Shelley.
Yep. And tell us what monstrosity we have here.
Yeah, there are certain applications where we may want to generate RFID labels within a factory environment. We may have a prime factory, or maybe we may have some small seasonal vendors. So the small seasonal vendors, we can actually set up a system where we're generating all of the items by SKU. We can punch in a cut ticket number, we can punch a work order number, and in volume produce the appropriate labels for that particular cut ticket or work order, and distribute those labels to remote locations for the small seasonal vendors, as well as being able to handle any of the applications that occur in a DC where I have certain SKUs in stock that have not been RFID tagged yet, but I have new stores have opened, and I now need that inventory to be RFID enabled for those particular retailers. I have the capability in-house to not only do singulate, scan and encode, but I can now batch print RFID tags and labels for those particular garments. Thank you, Shelley.
Right.
And then there's the handheld device. This actually allows us to address, again, in QC areas, returns, exceptions, reverse logistics, be able to inspect, QC those garments that have come back, and now we're able to actually apply an RFID inlay or a blank integrated tag. You know, service bureaus will provide you with some tags that have inlays in them that may be blank, and we have the ability now of being able to select the SKU for that item and scan and encode those tags real time, on the spot, ready to turn those garments and send those out to either customers, e-com, or to brick and mortar stores. Thanks, Shelley.
All right. So now that's the first step. So we've, those items are being tagged. Let's talk about some of the ways in which EdgeMagic can help you improve your receiving of goods in from your factories. And when the slide changes, go ahead. Michael, what are we looking at here?
What we're looking at here is how technology has evolved. This is a particular high-speed scan tunnel. This could either be used for inbound cartons coming from source, and we'll talk a little bit about a vendor scorecard. But what we're doing here is we're scanning, as you can see in the red line in the lower left-hand corner, we're scanning the barcode at very high speeds, and we're looking inside the box and scanning everything inside the box, and we're validating, yes, that box is correct. So whether that box is coming in from source or whether that box is headed out to one of our retail customers, our Macy's, our Saks, our Lord & Taylor's, we can validate outbound all of the EPCs. We can look for dupes, we can look for duplication, we can look for any type of error that may have occurred in the process along the way and catch those before our retail customers get them. Now, with the technology as it is today, with the readers that we're using and the antennas that we're using, we've made tunnels and cages obsolete. Everything now is within the particular hardware selection and antenna selection to be able to get very fine reads of the individual cartons without having to slow down your line and impacting Six Sigma and Kaizen metrics in performances within the DC. We can maintain line speed and still get carton validation and singulation without cages and tunnels. Thank you, Shelley.
Yeah, that's a key thing, which brings us to the what we call the vendor scorecard. And Michael, what's your thoughts?
This is just a small example of what a vendor scorecard can do. We're looking at all the performance values, and now what I can do is I can aggregate all of the shipments coming in from source, whether they be from Asia, Europe, Latin America. All these shipments are coming into my facility. I now have this information available to me where I know who the service bureau is, I know the factory, I know the source, and I can now generate a report of who's giving me good tags, solid performing tags, and where am I seeing some errors? Where am I seeing some tags that are outside the normal parameters, that are just sleepers and low flyers? I think of some terms that are used. We try to wake those up in a number of ways, but we have a report now. We can look at to see which locations, which geographies, and which vendors are giving me good tags, and which ones are having issues at certain facilities. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that we obviously there's cotton goods, but also garments on hangers. Those of you who receive your garments on hangers, we have a number of ways that we can read and process those goods. Mike, you want to explain the unloading of a shipping container?
Absolutely, Shelley, thank you. Yeah, we have a number of brand owners that on the high end that have a lot of GOH garment on hangers. So in addition, as you saw before, where we set up a reader and an antenna and a barcode scanner to validate inbound cartons and flats, we can also handle a mix of trolleys coming in on flow rails. So we set up a little read point, and we're able to, again, with proper antenna selection and proper reader selection, tune these applications so that we get accurate reads of items within the zone, and we can receive, we can validate outbound, and again, looking for any of those errors that might have occurred along the way. Identify any bad tags, dupe tags, mixed SKUs, wrong SKU, too many SKUs. All the exceptions can be captured before our retail customers get it. And on the other side, the retail customer can actually implement a system like this where they can validate the inbound shipments and capture any type of duplication or any type of miscoding or any type of errors in the EPC before those tags get into their supply chain.
Mike, we have a question here, and that is that there was a question. It was back about from the tunnel, the CYBRA cage. Jess, if you could repeat the CYBRA cage story, I will go back to that slide while that comes up. based on slide 15.
Okay, this is basically, we have engineered a method to validate cartons at high speed with minimum carton separation so that we don't impact the Six Sigma metrics of a DC in terms of cartons per minute and still get 99.7 documented read rates in a number of facilities where we actually have this running today. And by using the technologies that we're using, we've eliminated tunnels, we've eliminated cages, we've eliminated all of those other ancillary things that actually added complexity to the process and slowed the process down. So we've actually engineered a mechanism where we can validate both inbound from source, get the vendor scorecard, and validate the outbound so that we can, in effect, establish an electronic proof of delivery, which allows us to get paid faster from our customers, which is another ROI point for using inbound or outbound carton validation.
Very good.
I hope that answered the question.
And we're on the next. So we continue in the process where we've tagged our goods, we've received the goods, and talk about a pick and pack and the vast station processing. Michael?
Very good. Okay, what we have here is your typical pack station. Now that we've received the goods, we've gone through QC, we've either cracked the boxes open or we put the boxes into an active pick area. We now have a value add station where I may be shipping. Some of my customers are RFID enabled and some of them are not. I haven't hit the tipping point yet where I want to RFID tag everything, which is probably a consideration, because if I RFID tag everything, that provides me a lot of visibility to the inventory processes in my DC. But if I haven't hit that tipping point, a value add station, I can actually utilize existing pack stations where you've got the display, printer, tape machine, all those little pieces and parts. And what we do is we just add the RFID component to that station. And now integrating to your existing ERP, WMS, work in process, whatever your internal WMS, CGS, Blue Cherry, Manhattan Associates, Oracle, whatever your method is, your application is, we can add an RFID component to it and very quickly package and filter that data into the system and RFID enable these stations on the pack side to either generate the EPC for tagging purposes or use the EPC for the packing pack validation and generating the carton content label with the UCC 128. Thank you, Shelley.
So, so now we've done the packing, and you picked your packed. You move on, and we do the validation now. We can validate cartonized shit, as you see here. This is actually in the CYBRA's West Seneca RFID lab, where we've got a high-speed rate quicker, where we do a lot of this our testing and validation. But the key points here are we're comparing if there's anything wrong in that box. Basically, what happens is you, customer, load your, let's say it's order information into EdgeMagic. We know about these cartons. We scan the carton, check what's inside, make sure it matches the, what you're looking for. And if not, we, control a diverter and send the carton offline for exception handling. In addition, we can get very specific in what the exceptions were with various levels of messaging, et cetera, and so forth, and all that coming from EdgeMagic based on its integration with the application software. And again, that same handheld comes in very handy for doing water validation. I mean, with the on the garment on hangers, or with the cartons as well. As a matter of fact, well, you know, when our customers are starting up, let's say they're spinning up, they first want to get going. Very often we will start them off with the handheld, doing the handheld encoding, handheld pack validation, and handheld, or outbound shipment validation. And then even on the other side, if they're going between their company-owned locations, if it's a small amount of cartons, you can use the handheld to read the inbound as well, to do the receipt.
And what that Shelley does with the handheld allows me to handle any exceptions as well. So if I've got an outbound shipment going to a select retailer store, and in this particular case with GOH, and I find there's an error within the trolley, I can very quickly rectify that error and update the records so that when I generate the ASN for the EPOD, electronic proof of delivery, everything is accurate and processed quickly.
Very good. And then finally, we have EPOD. What does EPOD stand for? Electronic proof of delivery. And as soon as either the trolley or the cartons are loaded into that container, boom, that'll send that ASN right off to your customer. And it's actually the most accurate way, because this way you know it's in the carrier's hands. It's not sitting somewhere on your warehouse because you ran the ASNs in a batch on a Saturday night. And so this is an actual, and it's all automatic. There's no reason to. This is a very straightforward implementation.
Absolutely, Shelley. This is where we need to. These are the Jameson Mod 3 portals. Work very, very well to very quickly with a high-speed forklift truck run through the Jameson portal and be able to read all the cartons on the pallet, validate them going onto the right trailer, and validate I have all the cartons on the pallet.
1, 2, 3. Boom. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about EdgeMagic. I have some technical questions here which kind of relate to this. You hear about EdgeMagic. So what is it? Well, it's a software package. It is. Actually, one of the questions from Fred was, what's the architecture? What are the system requirements? Okay, so EdgeMagic runs on a web application server, such as Apache Tomcat or IBM WebSphere, and you can either run it, as we show it here, in a server, a single server. We can do a multi-tier, where very often this is what a number of our customers are doing, where they have multiple DCs. So they'll have multiple instances of EdgeMagic within the hierarchy with an enterprise view from above. And then for customers that have significant processing challenges in terms of either bandwidth limitations between the locations and the server, or very high tag populations in the remote locations, we have an appliance type approach, which is we developed something called the EdgeBox, which is a dedicated EdgeMagic server, and we'll get to a little bit in that. But back to the from the architecture standpoint, EdgeMagic supports an unlimited number of locations, and that's very important because those of you who are in IS have there are a number of WMS, and depending on how deeply you're integrated, et cetera, and so forth, and how full-featured, and that very often is a limitation. There's a concept of the warehouse, and that's it. Well, in the omni-channel world, there's lots of different places that can be considered a warehouse, and more importantly, you can define locations in EdgeMagic. For lack of a better term, there'll be data buckets, meaning that EdgeMagic is managing the serialization, and you may be manufacturing in Asia, selling in Europe and Latin America, but selling in Europe and North America. That's all transparent to EdgeMagic. So however you want to build a logical view, for lack of a better term, on top of that, of those processes of what EdgeMagic is working on, so you get that full visibility through the supply chain. Here we go. So I mean, EdgeMagic is a true EPC platform, meaning it's fully compliant with the GS1 EPC standard, and we manage the serialization. And this way, it's one tool that you can use throughout your enterprise to basically add RFID in a number of different places. There's without restriction. We support, because it runs on a web application server such as Apache Tomcat. It's native. You can run it native on the System I, which is the only RFID solution that does run native on the System I, also known as the AS400, Unix, AIX, and Linux, Windows, and even in the cloud. And not only so we can do server-based, we can do cloud-based, but we can also be hybrid. And the hybrid is showing this edge box here, EdgeMagic edge box. The edge box is a solid-state preloaded server running EdgeMagic, and it can run its own little virtual network of RFID readers, so with very little impact on your enterprise infrastructure, but you still get that full power of the RFID edge at the edge being brought in, the physical movement of the goods, and you'll be able to update your system. I have another question here that College Park. You can ask a question about integration. How do we integrate? So we have integrated with. Michael mentioned a number of the packages, Manhattan Associates, local SIM, EPIC, a number of different packages. But what we also have is a very full library of RESTful APIs, REST APIs, application programming interfaces. So what customers do is that we could guarantee that those APIs will be supported going forward. And if you follow the syntax and use the APIs, then you can change your application and update your application as needed, and we can update EdgeMagic as needed, but the interfaces that have been built will continue to work without a problem. Now, so what are some of those APIs like? For example, retrieve a SKU file, load a SKU file, retrieve an inventory, and that's an RFID inventory, meaning a particular read. And there's a library full of them. It's really quite powerful. And the last technical question here is from Peter, and he wants to know how it's licensed. So it's licensed by server, but then we also have the mobile, the component, the EdgeMagic.
Yeah, actually, Kelly, it's basically, it's a server-based license. So basically, you buy one copy of EdgeMagic with unlimited users and unlimited devices. You're now able to scale at will. So we could start off with a particular location, implement the hardware solution, get the carton validation, do the pick-pack station, handle the exceptions, and then at will, you're able to scale this out to other locations, prime factories, and small seasonal vendors. Thanks, Shelley.
You can easily add hardware, readers, various functions yourselves without going out. In addition to the benefits that we've discussed, or the functions, one of them that we get tremendous positive feedback from the customers is the product finder, the Geiger counter function. Michael, want to explain some use cases?
We have a number of use cases for the seek and find function, if you will, within the program. And this is where I'm working with first in, first out. I have some items that have a very sensitive seasonal turn. It has high turns, a very short season. and I want to be able to find those items first and get those items out first before they end up in an outlet store. Then I have other areas where in retail, where I have a customer standing with my store associate, and I need to find that blue one in size 6. So very quickly, the store associate, without disengaging the customer, can actually select that item, and the gun will actually bring you to the item and present it to the customer. Here you go. And it's a very nice customer experience, and we're finding very rarely does the customer not purchase the item that was found with the seek and find function.
Yeah, they actually enjoy going along with the associate on the little treasure hunts.
Exactly.
Right, using the Geiger counter. Also, there are dashboards that can be built on the EdgeMagic data. And the iterations and the possibilities are really endless. It's just the more data points, the more information you gather. You can refresh that data as often as you like. Can be modified easily. And just one last thing, and that is, we've been talking mostly about RFID, but CYBRA also has a significant product called MarkMagic. And what MarkMagic is an output product. It's a labels and forms processing solution. And one of the challenges that we were tasked by customers is the difficulty of creating a e-commerce direct to consumer or even direct to business to business single document, like they call it a collated solution. So what we've done is, without doing any programming, a customer can design an invoice, an RMA form, internal fabulous shipping label, a return label, some marketing materials, and this would all print on one shot. Having this capability, again, EdgeMagic knows about it. Obviously, MarkMagic and EdgeMagic are very tightly integrated. Then this kinds of capability of this e-commerce support already built in to MarkMagic and integrated into EdgeMagic will allow for really rapid, super fast implementations in the DC, specifically on the e-commerce support. So let's do a summary, and then we're going to go over to some questions. Number one, a much better eyeball of your inventory accuracy if you can actually count them by each with a unique serial number. Your profit will improve because your cost will go down. Very simple as that. No other way to do it. Primarily, you're reducing errors. You're reducing cost, the actual physical cost of running around and scanning things with a barcode. And literally just be more efficient, and without slowing down your existing material handling equipment. But in addition, you will even the processes that are currently done manually can be automated, which will make a tremendous impact on your bottom line. Which brings me to a question from Melanie. Melanie wants to know, Mike, you're going to love this one. Okay, what is the tipping point? When do you decide to go to 100% RFID?
Well, I'll tell you, that's the magic number that we've seen with the major brand owners that we're currently working with was 45%. Once I have 45% of a SKU that has to be mandated RFID enabled, it then makes sense to RFID enable 100% of it. And depending upon the number of SKUs that I have in my product line and how many SKUs are mandated for RFID, we'll then scale that out to when do I do everything? Probably in the 40 to 45% area once you hit that point, do everything. Because not only is everything available for pick, you're not segregating inventory, but in the terms of the cycle counting, in terms of the seek and find, in terms of the automated receiving and the validation of the outbound, the ROI will overwhelm the cost of a RFID tag on a garment.
You're right. I think because currently every RBO, every retail brand owner tackles with the fact that the Macy's, the Kohl's, the Targets of this world, these customers, mandate that you put to tag your garments, your goods, and if you look at it just as a cost, you're not getting anything out of it. That's the whole point. So it's the closer and that tipping point, like as Michael says, you hit that 45%, and then you start to do that investment on the receiving side, the outbound side. Boy, that ROI is it's so fast, because I mean another war story. Well, just one thing I will say is that Mike and I have a lot of scar tissue, is the term. We've been out doing this for a very, very long time. And for example, a customer who receives goods from source, but they don't have, there's no ASN, there's no PO. In other words, just a carton shows up, and they don't even know what's inside. They'd have to open every one to look inside. Well, if everything is tagged, and even if we're not validating, we can build the receipt file, within EdgeMagic, and then we'll tell you what came in, even though you didn't even know what was coming in. And I mean that was a tremendous thing. They were auditing almost literally every carton that came in, and that step has been replaced, as they don't have to associate, take folks to do that, and now they can cross-stock. They weren't even able to cross-stock until the system was put in.
Absolutely, Shelley. And once you have everything RFID tagged, again, on the inbound side without an ASN, we actually build the receiving. Everything that came off that trailer, we'll read every item that came off that trailer, and we'll compare that against a cut ticket. Obviously, it's coming from a particular factory or a source. There was a cut ticket that was generated. So this allows us to see what the yield was, what the results were, based upon that cut ticket before I put it through QC into my active pick inventory. Thank you, Shelley.
Very welcome. So, any other questions I see? Boom. All right. I see a question here. It's hard for me to, for some reason. Wow. Oh, there's a bunch of them. All righty. Let me see if I can. There it is. From Patrick. Building on that last question, do most of your customers only ship to one retailer, or are they shipping into multiple retailers? Do they realize they can ship to all? Well,
absolutely, yeah. We have a number of customers right now that are shipping to multiple retailers, and actually, in some cases, actually have a specific outbound dock door dedicated to one or two particular retailers, and the other one's up for some of the, if it's not the volume, just a few select stores where we're shipping garments to those satellite stores, if you will, that are in the pilot phase 1 processes.
And as a matter of fact, this also brings us to a real kind of roll up the sleeves workshop question, and that is, what we've seen is the customers that have, whatever it is, garments of some kind. But believe it or not, the same garment is sold to different retailers, and each of them has a different formatting requirement. So the know, they're quote unquote tagged differently, but EdgeMagic is still managing that serialization. So here, they can't tag at source because they have to. That's what they tag in the DC to change from the days of barcoding to whether it was JCPenney or whoever, the different customers' formatting requirements. And so that's a perfect thing where those VAS station comes in handy when they well, hey, this is going to retail number 1, run it through this way. This is going to retailer number 2, run it through that way, but EdgeMagic maintains the serialization correct between the two customers. Let's see if that's there's another one. Okay. Customer will ask, how quickly can I, as an RBO, enable my DC to leverage the EdgeMagic solution? What kind of timeline are we looking at?
That's a really good question, and that's really the where we excel in our experience. CYBRA has somewhere in excess of 2,900 customers using our various products in DC environments. And with the EdgeMagic product in its current configuration, we can put together a complete distribution center from inbound to cycle count to pick pack to outbound in about 5 to 6 weeks. From beginning of effort, say, yep, go ahead and do it, to ordering all the pieces, parts, and components, configuring the software, doing the integration to WMS and other ERP applications. You're looking at a 5 to 6 week lead time.
Okay, not long. Okay. What do you offer in terms of authentication and anti-counterfeit?
Well, obviously, with the tag coming from source, it's going to have the EPC. That EPC, when it gets into my supply chain, I'm going to have visibility to that particular serialization. So unless if I kind of tie that into a TID or do some other additional analysis, if you will, of the EPC tag and the data that's incorporated into it for my high-value asset items, that'd probably be the only way within the data collection piece, if you will, would be to tie some of the specific information into the particular chip that's being used to the serialization to get that type of security or validation. A lot of this is using some of the high-value assets that we work with in terms of diamonds, statuary, high-value vases, paintings, and some other applications where we can tie in some of the internal components of the chip with the serial number and the EPC encoded into the user piece.
Thank you. One of the another question, and I think this is a little crystal ball. What categories do we think are the next to be requested by the retailers? Is it sporting goods? Is it what's next?
Well, that's a really good question also. We see a lot of the items now with the shoes, the men's pants, the women's intimate apparel, and so forth. One of the areas that's been a challenge for folks has been the watches, sunglasses, jewelry, and those pieces and parts. We have a way now of overcoming some of those limitations. And we're going to see it in the sporting goods. We're going to see it in the fishing poles and we're going to see it into the hockey and the basketball and the baseball, and all of those components will probably be next in line for RFID tagging.
One of the things that as we do these implementations and we encounter certain, let's say, challenges, physics I mean, obviously a pair of shoes is quite easy to count 24 pairs of shoes compared to 200 bras in a box. But there are a number of areas where the brand owners are using the RFID even in conjunction with the retailer. So, for example, in the DIY space, do-it-yourself space, the Home Depots, the Lowe's, etc. The big buzzword there is actually the returnable asset. For these specialized pallets and things like that, each pallet costs $150. There's a need to have that pallet come back. Well, so the brand owners that we're dealing with, we put in a system. I just installed it, as a matter of fact, last week, where they tagged these specialized steel pallets, and they now get a better handle as for how many of the pallets they have in the factory, and more importantly, just because the retailer may not be, cognizant of whose skid belongs to who, my customer does not have to spend extra hundreds or thousands of dollars replacing skids that weren't even lost. They're just sitting in a yard by the retailer somewhere. So now they know when the order goes out that it went on this particular skid number, and they can request the skid number back, or they'll do a reverse charge to the customer, to the customer.
Exactly, Shelley, and that's where we get visibility to where where's the hole, where are these things disappearing, and by using the GS1 standards, using the GRAI and the GIAI standards, as these assets may be getting mixed up with other folks' assets, other companies can now find that they have some assets that belong to another organization. So now you get into this sharing of information where you can now get back your materials, and you can take materials that you have and return them to someone else. So using the GS1 standards provides visibility in that area.
Right. Well, I don't know if this question is for real, but if it's, I guess it is. How much does this cost? Well, I'll tell you this. It's definitely cheaper than doing it yourself. All the stuff's out there. You could learn the specs. You could write the drivers to the readers, etc., and so forth. We spent a lot of money over the past, 5 years, more, 7 years, and there's many lines of code in the solution that does this. But please give Mike a ring. Write to him. Write to sales@cybra.com, and we'll prepare a proposal with priced accordingly for your space.
Yeah, I would love to do a budgetary proposal for an application like that, and you'll just be surprised how little it costs when you're using a server-based solution. It's amazing.
All right. Now, just before we end, we're coming down to the close. Is there any other questions? But Mike and I are going to be at the RVCF, the Retail Vendor Compliance.
NRF, Shelley, we're going to be at RVCF this weekend in Scottsdale, and we'll be at the NRF in New York City in 2016, January.
That's right. So we look forward to seeing you. If you'll be there, please look us up. And we've got something really electric, that's all I'll say, and very exciting for NRF. And we really want you to put us on your dance card when you do attend the big show at the Javits Center coming up this January. I want to thank everybody for taking time and joining us. Please, you can reach out to us, to sales@cybra.com, any other further questions. And we really thank you for taking the time, and have a great day. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, gentlemen.